Hey, good evening, college sports fans, and it's actually kind of cool to get to say that because we're coming at you from a new platform, College Sports Crew, and this on this platform, this is just one of the podcasts, a Veteran Sports Voice podcast, and I'm here with my guy Ian McCants, and I got a very special guest for our very first episode on this new podcast. Man, I got the godfather of everything Arkansas Razorbacks. He's over here shaking his head, but he's not. Man, I think I know you 40 plus years of journalism of just Arkansas sport, going all the way back from the Mina Star Morning News, Arkansas Democrat Gazette, Hogs Illustrated, 247 Sports, Rivals, Hogville, you name it. And now you got your own. You got your Otis Kirk Sports Service. You're delivering Razorback news, information, coverage to 14 newspapers across Arkansas and on Pig Trail Nation. Everybody, you know what? Hey, man, Otis Kirk, everybody. Otis Kirk, ladies and gentlemen, welcome on the show. And Otis, we're absolutely honored to have you on this show because it's our first episode, and I know we're just honored, and I know this is a tough day.
Believe me, I'm honored that you two would ask, Sean, I know you and Mr. McCants here would ask me to come on first show or last show or whatever, I hope it's not the last one because of me, but no, I appreciate you guys. It's really seriously, it's an honor for me, for you guys to have asked me to come on today. So I appreciate the asking, and I'm here, and I hope I can help a little bit,
Well, you know what? Hey, your presence here is definitely has helped putting us out. But I would like to let everybody know out there that you know what, just what a hell of a trooper you are, because I know this is a tough day here. Looking back over some of your stuff, I know one of the most respectful tributes that came from you. You described Nate Allen as probably your best friend. And yeah, and if you see right here, we got him up here on the screen here. And just, give us a little thought words, if you are able, about Nate and what he meant to Arkansas Razorback journalism.
He graduated from Missouri, and he came down and started covering Arkansas. And I've known Nate since the early 80s, middle 85, early 80s, maybe, probably early 80s. And I've known Nate for a long time, and he's the reason I got into this. I actually went to school to be a coach, went to college to be a coach, and I've never had a journalism class in my life, even in high school or any level, because I took coaching classes. But I got out, and Nate was into sports, and he got me interested in it, and I started writing and started out at the Mina Star, and and built my way up the ladder. And I love it. That's been my calling. But Nate and Orville Henry were two big influences on me, big time. And when I moved up here to North in 1997 from Mina, those were actually two guys I worked with that hit the morning news, was Nate and Orville Henry, and those were two of my idols. But Nate, I knew more on a personal level than Orville. But we'd come up and go to the football game, Razorback games, and spend the night with Nate and Nancy. When we come up to Mina. And it was just the guy, he beat cancer 5 times, he's a trooper. And I talked to him Sunday before he died, the last Sunday. Well, I say we text. That's how everybody talks now. We text, and the last thing he said to me was, will you ask Coach Silverfield? He said, I'm too sick to go Thursday, but will you ask Coach Silverfield if he plans to have somebody from Arkansas on his staff? And, I asked Ryan that. And I really appreciated Ryan taking the question and answering it and recognizing me for doing that. And I really appreciated Ryan doing that. He thanked me for asking it. And then I got several comments. Woody Bassett and others at the funeral today commented on me asking that question, and they thanked me. And, I said, no, like I told Ryan, I would be neglectful if I didn't ask that. I promised Nate I'd ask that. And I know he was passed away. I talked to him that Sunday evening. He told me they told him to go to bed and get on oxygen. He don't get out of it. And he was supposed to, and his son called me. That was Sunday evening. His son called me the next evening and said, they told me he won't make it through the night. If he does, he'll pass away tomorrow. And, Nate, that was Monday, and Nate lived till Wednesday. He always beat the odds. He beat cancer 5 times, but he finally ran out of beating the odds and beating the options. And he died on Wednesday, and they had his funeral today. But, boy, I tell you what, you're talking about well-respected. He covered the Hogs. Nate was one of a kind, though. He was a different person. If you did know him, you think, man, that guy's wacky, but if you knew him, he was a different person, and I knew him on a personal level, friend level, professional level, the whole 9 yards. And he and Nancy, actually, when I bought a house, we were 2 houses. One house was in between us there in Fayetteville. And then I sold my house. So I didn't have the nerve to tell him I sold it. I had to get up the nerve to tell him. And, the only thing he asked me was, will you take me and show me your new house or new apartment? And I said, I sure will. And, I did the first game, the day of the Alabama A&M game. And you know what? I'm proud I didn't cut that off, because I took him to the Alabama A&M game with me, and I took him to the next home game. And that was the only 2 games he got to go to. He was too sick to go to the other. But and that's something I didn't put off. I took him. He was weak, nearly fell 3 or 4 times on the pavement. And I was a nervous wreck by the time I got into the press box. But, hey, looking back, I'm so glad I didn't. I'm sure glad I brought him by and let him see the apartment and know where I lived. And I didn't put that out, because I have a tendency – we're all busy, and I have a tendency to put things off if I can, and I didn't that, and I thank God that I didn't.
Well, and I tell you, I got a little bit to know Nate just a little bit briefly there when I was at Arkansas, and I'll tell you the 2 things. And one thing I read recently is, he was on hospice here at the end, and he literally turned in a story before this, like just what dedication. But I always looked at Nate. Like, he kept people in line. Like, he literally, I remember him going after Petrino a little bit because closed practice. He always wanted transparency. And, and you look at things that are happening now, and, to a school up north right now, a little bit of transparency probably could have prevented a little bit of that up there. Uh-oh. And we lost him.
Oh, okay.
Let's say he must have clicked off. We get our producer over here. Chris, can you resend out an invite there to him? Okay, we got that going there.
Yeah.
On that. But anyway, y'all, Nate Allen was he literally was kind of that guy that just kept everybody in check, and I respected that about him a lot. And so that and with what you going through that, we appreciate you being on here with that.
I think Otis. I lost you guys for a minute. It blanked off. I don't know what happened, but I apologize if I'm back now. I don't
that's
know
okay.
If it went off on your end or not, but it went blank here, and I have no idea.
That's all right.
Happened. But anyway, I'm back. But no, like you said, I said, hey, I like to do stuff like this because it takes your mind off of stuff. If you sit around and think too much, you don't do yourself a favor. If you sit around and you just think too much, and I'll be honest with you, Nate would say, "Why in the heck aren't you working?" If he was here, he'd say, "Why aren't you working? Why are you pouting about me dying? Get your butt in there and go to work, man." That's what he would say.
Well,
he's a lot like my dad. That's what my dad always hates saying was, "It's too far from your heart to key, and I go to work."
Well, I'll tell you what. Well, I tell you what, Otis. On that, let's do what Nate says. Let's go to work. How about let's transition a minute here. Okay, so Arkansas, we have a new coach, Ryan Silverfield. Now that the hire is beneficial, what's your take on the pick? What do you think?
I really like that guy. I really do, and I didn't know at first. I really didn't. I was up in the air on him, and I'm not saying he'll be great. I've never seen him be great. 2 things I've said. One, I hope Hunter gives him an even playing or close to an even playing field as he can, with the other coaches in the SEC. As close as you can. I don't know what they'll ever have, what Texas, LSU, some of those schools have, but I hope he gives him a pretty level playing field, and I think he's going to. And then also, I ask fans, just give the man a chance. He deserves a chance. Everybody deserves a chance. If you don't give a man a chance, you don't know how you do it. They don't, well, he's going to be terrible. You don't know that. You said he's going to be great. No, I didn't say that. But, I don't know if he's going to be great. No, if he's going to be good. They don't know if he's going to be terrible. Give the man a chance, see what he can do. And then if you give him an even playing field or, fairly an even playing field, and then, you give him a chance, what he does with it's up to him. Then you can honestly say, hey, man, but no, I tell you what, I've been really impressed with him. I like the fact he's aggressive hiring coaches. He's hired like 14 or 15 right now. Now, none's been announced, but I've confirmed about 14 or 15 hires. Usually it's 10. But he's hiring people to be assistant to the assistant, and I like that. He's being very aggressive with these hires, and he knows what he wants. and he's not getting turned down a whole lot. He went after a head coach in the state at another college, smaller college. Didn't get him, but he made up for it getting another coach from Clint Trickett from Jacksonville State. He tried to get Nathan Brown, the head coach at UCA, but Nathan chose to stay at UCA.
Right.
He offered him a pretty good raise to come to Arkansas, but Nathan, I guess, wanted to be a head coach. He stuck with it. But everybody tells me, and John, I sent you some of this stuff. When he hired the GM, everybody was blown away. That's not me talking. That's everybody, people that know this guy, and they were just all the ESPN national writers were all raving about him. The guy's covered Arizona for 8 years with raving about him. One thing I've noticed when a coach leaves, they usually say, he stinks, he stinks, and no, the Arizona guy I was talking about, he was the one that turned that program around. So apparently this guy is really good. And I'm taking their word for it, but I have heard nothing bad about this man. And this is coming from high ups that don't usually rant and rave about Arkansas in a positive manner that much.
Right. And that's, I'm so glad you brought this one up right here because I was telling Ian right here, this is the most intriguing hire to me because like you, I used to live in well, not like you, but I used to live in Arizona and I have some connections there. And I reached out and this might be the best hire Arkansas has made. Because the way that the money game is, and as well as I do, Arkansas got behind the 8-ball big time on the NIL and all that good stuff. And this guy right here is Arizona went from, I can't remember their actual record for here, but I know they're 9-3. And a lot of it is based off of Crowley. And I can't say this guy's first name, but his last name is Crowley. But I am excited about this hire right here.
May I ask a question with that? And I would like your expertise here, Mr. Kirk. So I think a lot of times we have fans, and I'm not going to call them casuals, but we sort of know the structure of a football team the way that it's presented to us. Okay, so we know head coach, we know coordinators. Can you sort of explain the importance of a general manager?
Yeah, well, this guy's going to have extra reports because he's going to be football only, is what I was told, and he's going to oversee a lot of the NIL stuff. Takes a lot of that off of Ryan. The NIL, he will help get the prospects lined up. Some of them, I mean, they got a recruiting office, and obviously Sean knows more about that than I do. But you've got offices, but this guy kind of is a master of all trades, I guess you could say. Works with getting recruits, identifying them, portal. And that's one thing. Sean said Arkansas got behind on this, and they were going to get a GM for every sport, but you can't. That's not going to work. You got this guy strictly for football, and he needs to concentrate on football because look, football is a sport in itself. It's like John Calipari. Basketball is a sport in itself. Dave Van Horn, baseball. They've got their own stuff, and so I like the fact he's going to be in there. But yeah, just kind of. I kind of call it a master of all trades, just a little bit of everything, got his hands in everything. But I do know that he will take some of the NIL pressure off of Ryan, works on that front, and just stuff like that. And that's a big news, and he can deal with that. And it's one less headache for Ryan or the head coach. And, I've been impressed. Man, I can say, but this Silverfield guy's really impressed me. And I didn't know if I would be or not. I'm not going to lie to you. I like him. I like the guy. I hope he's very successful here, and I hope he's here for a long time because I really like the guy. I think he's going to do a good job. He's been out. He hired the running back coach at Florida State, was the recruiting coordinator for them down there. Running back coach, recruiting coordinator. He got maybe the best special teams coach in the country, Chad Lunsford from Auburn. I just like the fact he's hiring these guys. Jeff Myers coached the offensive line from Memphis. Had a big time showing at Iowa State with Coach Campbell up there when he was at Iowa State. Tim Cramsey is very familiar with that offense, ran it at Memphis. Morgan Turner, I like him keeping Morgan. I'm proud he kept somebody off the staff.
I like that. I like that too.
When that happened, they asked me, "Will he keep him?" One, I said, "I think it's one of two: Eric Mateus or Eric Mateus or Morgan Turner." And I found out some things why he didn't keep McChase and he kept Turner. So that worked out really good. And plus, he had Myers coming over from Memphis. He really likes him, and I can see why. And then Darren Wilson, he was here before at Arkansas, and he's back. But I think he's just, and Ron Roberts is a guy that I actually talked to Sam about when he hired T. Will. I didn't know T. Will, and I don't know Ron. But when Barry Odom left to go to UNLV, I guess it was, I told Sam, I said, keep in mind the name Ron Roberts. And he reached out to Ron for the defense coordinator. Ron ended up at Auburn. But I'm impressed with Ron Roberts. Now, I don't know him personally, wouldn't know the guy if I walked in the room with him. But I've been impressed with his work. But I hope he does well for Ryan. I think the offensive staff will. And then, he's trying to hire Marion Hobby from Tennessee, who's worked Cincinnati Bengals and other teams in the NFL. Got a lot of college experience. Co-defensive coordinator at Clemson. Some of those, and coached the defensive ends there at Clemson. And we know they've had a ton of guys drafted on that defensive line in the NFL back when he was there. And so,
Absolutely.
That'd be I think it'd be a great hire with Marion Hobby. I mean, his record speaks for I'm just going on his record. There again, I don't know the man, but I'm familiar with the name. I did Clemson for about 4 months when I was a national person with CBS for about 4 months. Clemson was actually one of my schools, and I was impressed with everything they did over at that time. They were winning big then. That's been several years ago. He hired Simeon Blair from Arkansas to be quality control on defense. I bet Simeon, don't you?
I do. I got that. He was one of my DBs there, and I watched him as a walk-on from Pine Bluff come in and do his thing, and then he transferred to Memphis and had a good deal there. So I like that he's bringing somebody in that understands the culture and he understands Arkansas, and as well as I do, South Arkansas is not recruited heavily like it should, and I think there's some diamonds in the rough out there.
I have been told, he's got some more hires to make. And I have been told that he's trying, the word I was told, he's working his butt off to hire somebody from Arkansas with Arkansas ties, so Razorback. And that was before Simeon. I don't think they were talking about Simeon. I think they're still trying to find somebody else to coach maybe one of these. I think I heard he was wanting another wide receiver coach to go with Coach Terry Smith out there. Probably get a linebacker coach to go with Coach Lunsford. I know Coach Roberts, not Lunsford. Roberts coaches defense, and he's a linebacker coach. But I think he might try to get somebody to coach there because he's got Clint Trickett, who I got to know during the recruiting process, guys. I got to know Clint real well. His dad was a big-time offensive line coach, Rick, at Florida State for years, and Rick Trickett. And I got to know Clint really well. He didn't sign with Arkansas, but we got to be pretty good friends there during the recruiting process. Wore his phone out. We talked all the time, and he ended up going to West Virginia, and then he transferred around a time or two. But Clint's back in Arkansas. He was offensive coordinator and quarterback coach at Jacksonville State this year. They went 8-4, then lost in their championship game, the conference championships. They went 8-5. So Jacksonville State, he gave them a pretty successful season there before leaving for Arkansas. But no, just overall, I like this staff, but I really like Silverfield. I think he can be a leader, and I'll tell you what, he's aggressive, and Sean, and guys, that's what I like is he's aggressive. I
was going to ask you about that. Like, and I know I'm going to ask this question. I'll let Ian get the next one here. But, I like that was the thing that caught my eye because, like you, I wasn't sold. I was like, what did we get into here? But he immediately went after and closed the fence around Arkansas and locked down the 4-star recruits. And that needed to happen. And, with that being said, how much recruiting traction do you think he's gained by doing that, and how is it carrying? How do you think it'll carry over?
I think it's going to carry over a lot, and I think he impressed some people. I mean, Arkansas wasn't even returning phone calls to Bryant, I was told. I don't know if that's true or not, but I was told that they weren't recruiting phone calls to Bryant High School, and why, I don't know, because that's the best high school program in the state of Arkansas. He signed 2 out there. Probably would have gotten 3 had he been here earlier and offered that defensive end, the edge. It went to OU, but Bobby actually offered him, but it was late. Bobby offered him late, and then of course, Ryan comes in and re-offers him, but it was too late. But one thing I think he did, though, made an impression with Matt Nelson. if it doesn't work out at OU and he got 2 of his teammates here at Arkansas, I could see Matt maybe looking at Arkansas if he comes out of the portal, because you don't burn your bridges. You guys know that anymore. You don't burn bridges in recruiting.
No,
because you didn't get him the first time. You may get him the second time. Look at Courtney Crutchfield. He went to Missouri, but Arkansas didn't burn.
Yep.
Sam and those guys, Sam and Bobby and them didn't burn didn't burn any bridges with him, and they got him back. And and that's going to be the story going forward of a lot of kids. It's maybe not a lot of kids, but there's going to be some more kids. That won't be the last time a kid leaves Arkansas or doesn't come to Arkansas, and then you get him back. Shaq McCoy, who's in the portal again, but he went to Oregon. But he as soon as he got in the portal, he came back to Arkansas. Now he's leaving again. But it showed that he never forgot Arkansas, and if Coach Pittman stayed, I think he would have stayed.
Right. Ian, you got a question there, big guy?
Yeah, I do. And I have to tell you this, I feel the excitement, the way that you explained, and I'm a believer. Okay. But my question is, do you feel that this is going to translate to the recruits? Okay. Do you feel optimistic about the 2026 class? What do you think about the portal? Do you think that, they're going to gain maybe some unexpected players or maybe even some losses? So I would just like your opinion on that.
That's what he's got to do, because I know he signed 17 kids out of the high school ranks. He signed 17, and that's good. And I'm going to tell you guys, I broke the story when Colton Yarborough and Kevin Otis committed to Arkansas. I broke that story. You don't break very many stories in Arkansas anymore because of X and everything else. But I broke that. But I'm going to tell you, Colton Yarborough is the #1 player in Oklahoma, 4-star. Chose Arkansas, and when he announced he was going to announce, he called me that Saturday. He was at Arkansas and said, "I committed today. I'm going to go public with it next Saturday." But during the week, it got out that he was going to announce between Arkansas, LSU, Georgia, and Oklahoma State. All the national guys were forecasting to LSU or Georgia, and I knew all along he was going to Arkansas. And I went down to the ramp for his signing or his commitment that day, that Saturday to next Saturday. But what I'm getting at, and he stayed with it. And I do think it's going to translate, because he's already offered the 2029 receiver out of Bryant. And those kids weren't getting offered for. But I'm starting to hear kids are reaching out to me about Arkansas, whereas before they didn't think Arkansas was going to recruit them. I had the #1 player in 28 in Arkansas with a 4-star, rated #1 with 24/7. He was on my TV segment yesterday with Pig Trail Nation. Arkansas hasn't offered him. But get this, Coach Silverfield and him offered him at Memphis. He's from Joe T. Robinson. They went 14-0, I believe it was, or 50. They went undefeated and won the state championship this year. And he was on my segment yesterday, but I bet you Arkansas offers him pretty soon. And they'd already offered him at Memphis, and he was excited about Ryan Silverfield. So I do think it's going to carry over in recruiting. And just the fact that he showed the Arkansas kids they are important. I think that's one reason that some of these kids like Mason Ball from Jacksonville, some of these kids are getting excited because it looks like Ryan wants them to be part of the program and go make an emphasis part of the program. We all talk about Arkansas as an emphasis, but sometimes I think that's just lip service. I think with this guy, it's really true. I think he means that, and it shows in recruiting. And him going to getting those 4 kids that day, 2 from Bryant, then 1 from Cross County where Wayne Martin used to play, and then the other one from Little Rock Central High School. It used to turn out tons of prospects, but he got those 4 kids the first day, and that was just, I guess his second day came on Sunday, but really the first full day on the job, he got those 4 kids, and I think all that's going to carry over into recruiting, into the spring. The junior days is coming up. I call them prospect days. I know, Sean, you guys had those. I call them prospect days. They used to be junior days because they'd only invite juniors, but now they invite, freshmen, sophomore. So I call it prospect days. It just don't matter, but that's what I call it. But anyway, those are coming up. I think that will give these kids a lot of chances to get to meet not just Ryan, but the staff and get to interact with them. And I think you can put a lot of hay in the barn, still a term from my dad, on the junior day, prospect day, because you can get in there and get to, not just you get to know them, but they get to know you, and you get to know him a little bit more, because you've seen film, but you can watch film on a kid. I could watch a film on every kid, but I don't know what his heart is or how he, what if he doesn't, how he interacts when you get one-on-one with him in person or in a group, and you can turn people on or off, and I think that that's important. And I think it's important for these kids to get out and meet these people and let people get to know them, because I don't think you can shield these kids from that. I think they need to get out and meet the coaches and learn how to interact with them. And I think it impresses the coaches, the staff, the recruiting staff, and everybody. The more they get to know these kids, the better chance of getting an offer. And I tell these kids, all the fringe kids, somewhat fringe kids or young ones, come to camp at Arkansas. Get your name out there. Let these coaches see you in person, what they can do. If they see you on film, come and let them see you in person, what you can do, and get you some interaction with those coaches. See how you stack up against other kids in the state of Arkansas. Well, not just Arkansas, all the kids coming to camp. See how you stack up with the better ones, and let the coaches see you and get offered. And if I'm a kid on the fringe of getting an offer, then I come to these camp, or if I'm a younger kid, maybe. That's where I got to know Bryson Brown, the kid that was on my show 2 years ago. He came to a camp in Arkansas. He and his dad were standing off to the corner. And I saw this kid out there running, and he impressed me. And I saw him come over and talk to that man. I said, "Is this your son?" He introduced me. So I got to know Bryson right there, and I got to know him right there at the Arkansas camp. We've maintained a relationship since then. And he's got offered by Memphis and Kentucky and Ole Miss and gosh, I don't know. I mean, like 13, I was like 7 or 8 schools. I think Oklahoma State. Anyway, he's going to have a lot more offers, and I'm sure Arkansas will once they get the staff gets in place. But like I said, Ryan already knows about him and offered him over there.
Well, you're talking about the high school thing here now, and I have to ask, and I'm hoping, Otis, and if you feel like breaking something, you go right ahead on our show, buddy. But I gotta know, because, in my opinion, our athletic director, and I will not call him out by name because I know him. I got to coach one of his kids at Fayetteville High School. But he made a statement that said that the former coach, Coach Pittman, was not in a position to compete NIL-wise in the SEC, which I thought that was absolutely probably one of the dumbest statements you could have made on national television. What is our NIL package look like, and is it going to be competitive? What are you hearing? Because that is the most quiet thing that you have heard. Like, nothing's coming out.
Well, Hunter says they're in the top half of the SEC now. And I hope that's true. And I have noticed that he has kept some of the key Razorbacks, because Quincy Rhodes, I had a family member tell me all year Quincy's going to the NFL. And he didn't. And I was shocked that day that they introduced right. And Quincy walks in and says, "I'm staying," because I'd been told all year he was going for late first round, early second round pick. And I'm thrilled to death the kid's coming back. I think it's a very smart move. Get that NIL, learn another year, and that's one less year you'll have to adjust the NFL and sit on the bench. You'd be more ready to play when you get the NFL. But it shocked me. But he's kept KJ, he kept Braylon Russell. I think they're in the upper half. And one thing I've noticed when he's offering these coaches, he seems to give them a little bit more money. I do know, like Nathan Brown makes $250 at UCA, the head coach. Ryan offered him $400 to be quarterback coach here. Giving him $150,000 raise over a head coaching job. So I think, and you're right. I don't know how you keep your job when you make that statement, because that was my first point a while ago when I said this about Ryan. I said, I hope the AD gives him a somewhat level playing field. That was exactly the statement I was referring to. And then, of course, people give him a chance. But yeah, I mean, you don't want 4 or 5 years from now, Hunter's sitting up there with the next interim coach.
Exactly.
Saying Ryan didn't have an even playing field, didn't have an even chance in the SEC. The last thing you want is that, man. You don't want. So I hope that never happens again, and it can't. And honestly, I think it's inexcusable. I don't think there's any reason for and I'm not going to ever say they're going to have the same money as Texas or Alabama, LSU, some of the elite programs there. I don't know all of them, but I know who the elite program, but I don't know all their money situation, but I don't know if they'll be on an even playing field, but they can be somewhat level even playing field with them and get closer. And I think if he does that with Ryan, the way he knows how to maneuver and stuff, I think they'll be okay. And I'm just praying that Hunter delivers on that, what he said, and gets them in the top half. And I never want to hear again another coach didn't have an even playing field. That's rough for Sam, man, because, we all knew Sam didn't. We all knew he didn't. And when Sam said something like that, he was whining or he's making excuses. Bro, that's not an excuse. It's a fact. Facts are not excuses. There's a difference between stating a fact and stating an excuse. And maybe it sounded like an excuse from people that don't really realize, but it was not. It was facts. Sam was stating. Maybe he was using it somewhat as an excuse. But look, it is a legit excuse. It's just like you go out here and buy a car and you've got $20,000 and the next guy's got $100,000. Who's getting a better car? I mean, it ain't rocket science, guys. I mean, you got $100,000. The guy's got $100,000. You got $20,000. He's gonna get a better car than you are. It's just, and that's just life, But I do think Arkansas can get more level. They've got some people. I know people that would be willing to donate. They've never been asked. They tell me, I'm going to donate.
I've heard that down in South Arkansas.
How can you not ask? These people don't want to, I guess they don't want to go out and beg somebody to take their money.
Right. Yeah.
But
I've heard that. I've heard that down in South Arkansas from people down there.
I've had people tell me that. And then they've alienated some people with the basketball tickets. I do know that. I talked to an elderly gentleman. I spoke at the Queen. Oh, it was the day that but Sam got fired on Sunday. I spoke in the Queen on Monday. So whatever day they introduced Bobby up there, I was in the Queen that day.
Okay.
And I had an elderly gentleman tell me that they put his seats, he's elderly, and they moved him to a high seats way back up in the middle of nowhere. And, he kept his donations up, and he moved him out. And you treat people like that, that's not good, man.
Right. Ian, you got a question over there for him, or?
Yeah. I guess my question would be about expectations. Now, you two gentlemen are definitely, close to the program. You have sources, all of that good stuff. But I did notice online that most of the fans didn't seem to be excited about this hire. Maybe at the time it wasn't, the sexiest name. I did a little bit of looking and just wanted to form my own opinion. I think it's a solid hire. I do think that maybe he got a little bit too much credit for Memphis, okay, because it seemed like they were already on a trajectory up, okay, with Norvell before him and Fuentes before him. And so, maybe the fans saw what happened to Norvell. Fuentes, his coaching journey, I can't think about that, but of course Norvell. What would you say to the fans that don't maybe have the ties to the university like you, but just want to have faith in Arkansas football? What would you tell them as far as expectations and just what to expect in the near future? Yeah,
what I have said on that was, and I'm not going to predict 2 wins or 10 wins. What I've told people, go into this knowing where Arkansas's at, 2-10. Know where they're at. Also could have won 8-9 games this year if they avoided turnovers. So they were right there. Notre Dame blew them out. Texas blew them out. Really, though, they were in 8 or 9 of those games. They could have beaten Ole Miss. They could have beaten Memphis.
Right.
Fumbles at the end of those games cost them both those games a win. So, I mean, they were right there. But go know where you're at. Just go into the season with an open mind and just give the guy a chance. That's all you can do. I won't say they're going to win 2 games. I won't say they're going to win 10 or 5, whatever. I don't know. But I do think you need to give the man a chance. And I'd say that if you were the coach, Ian, or if it was Sean, I'd say the same thing. You've got to give the man a chance. I think everybody deserves a chance. I remember when I started out, I was from Mena, and nobody knew who I was. And Randy Rainwater took a chance, put me on the radio. Paul Eels put me on TV. Bob Carver set that up. I mean, nobody knew who I was, but they took a chance and they gave me out. And, I worked my way up. I started out the very bottom and worked my way up. So I think you've got to give a man a chance because you never know. First, you may, I've never, I don't like the guy. I've never heard of him or whatever. But, he did win 29 games his last 3 years at Memphis. That's pretty good. And, now he went 8-4 this season, lost some games that they probably he should have won, but not probably, they should have. But still, he won 29 games the last 3 years, and he did. You're right. Coach Norvell left a good program there. He left a very good program. I knew Coach Norvell from his days here and UCA and stuff. And actually, Nathan took his place down there, but I think he took Norvell's place. But anyway, I know Nathan went down there. He's from UCA too. But anyway, I don't know about numbers wise, Ian. I couldn't say because I just don't know. But looking at the schedule, it's brutal and it's always going to be brutal. That's never going to change. SEC. You can play. You can pick the 8 teams you want to play. Or I'm sorry, you can pick the 9 teams now that you want to play in the SEC. Pick the 9 you want, and it's still a brutal schedule. You can leave off Alabama, Texas, Oklahoma, whoever you want to leave off, Georgia. Leave all them off. You're still going to play tough games, man. It's just tough. So it's going to. In fact, the schedule is brutal. So what? That's all I'll say.
Right. That's just
that way. Next year, it's going to be the way. 3 years from now, it's going to be that way. 5 years from now, that's not going to change. But you've got to be prepared for it. Coach Nutt, Coach Petrino, both proved at Arkansas you can win in the SEC. You can compete. They were here 14 years. Went to 11 bowl games in 14 years. The 2 of them combined. Houston went to 8 bowl games in 10 years. Bobby went to 3 in 4 years. That's 11 bowl games. And they weren't all Houston went to 2 SEC championship games. And they weren't all rinky-dink bowl games like, the Liberty Bowl. No, he went to the Liberty Bowl a time or two and the Music City Bowl. He did go to Music City, but the Independence Bowl I was talking about. He went to Cotton Bowl several times. He went to Orlando, I know, twice. So, I mean, they went to some good bowl games. I saw him play Tom Brady down in Orlando. I saw him play Brett Bielema down there when they played Wisconsin. So, that was in Orlando. So, they went to good bowl. So, it can be done at Arkansas. And I get, when I say that to people, they say, well, it's different times. NIL, transfer portal. Look, the transfer portal should be a plus for Arkansas. Because, look.
Absolutely.
Alabama and those schools are going to get your 4- and 5-star kids out of high school. LSU. You're not going to get the ones they really want for the most part. You may get some, but you won't get them all. But what happens is these 4- and 5-star kids get to Alabama and they're sitting there looking. There's 3 or 4 5-stars ahead of them, so they hit the portal. Arkansas got Drew Sanders doing that, linebacker.
That's right.
He's a good one.
That's where you make your hay. Arkansas should love the transfer portal. Yes, they lose. They lose. They lose. Yeah, but so does everybody else. I promise you. Kiffin's losing kids. He doesn't want to lose. Everybody loses kids, but you sit there and you get your Drew Sanders. You get your Xavier Sword.
Right.
Get you those guys. That's where Arkansas has got to be smart. And I think Ryan Silverfield will.
Right.
The portal should be Arkansas's best friend because if you just go strictly on high school, if you got behind, like they're 2 and 10, and you can only get high school recruits, we're going to be behind for a while. It's going to take a while. Whereas now, you can make that up in the transfer portal, and you can look what Coach Signetti did out at Indiana.
Absolutely.
They were rock bottom, man, and he went there and look what happened in 1 year, 2 years.
Right.
It can be done at Arkansas. I still say it can be done at Arkansas, and I don't buy anything less than that. Will it be done? I can't say that. I'm not going to get people expectations up there saying, yes, Arkansas is going to do it, but it can be done. It has been done at Arkansas. I don't buy it. Yes, this is a different times, but it should be easier times for Arkansas because Bobby couldn't go to the transfer portal and get kids back then. Houston couldn't go to the transfer portal and get kids. Now they can.
Right.
That's where you get these kids, these big time players that go to these schools like Georgia and Alabama, and they get on the team because they dream of playing there. But then when they get there, realistic things. They start looking at realistic options. There's 3 or 4 kids ahead of them. There were 4 or 5 stars. So then not all of them, but some of them hit the transfer portal. And you got to be there to try to get some of those kids. And you got to do a good evaluation. You got to get them. But I mean, the transfer portal should be Arkansas's best friend. I know I've said that 2 or 3 times. I
noticed that about you, Mr. Kirk. You've been around, and most people that have been around like you that I've talked to, they seem to be resistant, to the future NIL and the portal, but you seem to be very excited and welcoming it. So do you expect any upcoming changes, or what's your thoughts on the future?
I get why the average fan, they got one thing I hear is I went to the practice, I saw these kids. Used to, I could build a relationship. I'm talking about the fan would tell me that I could build a relationship with X player, Z players, Y. Now I can't do it because they may hit the portal after. And I get that. You don't know who's going to be back. But boy, I mean, like I said, you got to look. There's 2 ways to look at that thing. You can look at it and say, "Man, they're losing kids. We're never going to compete." Or you can look at it and say, "They're losing kids, but now they can go get some kids. They've got to go get better ones." If you lose an outstanding player, guess what? You can go get a better one. Now they haven't always done that, and they may not do it again. But that's the option is there to do that. if you're good and smart at what you do. Coach Signetti did that at Indiana. I know the coach at Vanderbilt came in. That program was the laughing stock of the SEC. It's not the laughing stock of anything now. And so if it can be done at Vandy and Indiana in a very short time, it can be done at Arkansas. And I mean, but I went a long ways around answering your question. So I won't put expectations out there, but the expectation is that it should be a welcome sight for the transfer portal. And Arkansas's got to really hit home runs in this transfer portal that's coming up January the 2nd through the 16th, I believe it is.
Right. Well, Nate, let me ask you this. Because you're locked in on a lot of stuff that we aren't in that transfer portal. Are you hearing? Are there some interesting people in that portal that make you excited after all this years of doing this? Are you hearing some good things?
Yeah, I saw C.J. Baxter went in, a 5-star running back out of Texas. There again, he went to Texas. Guess what? They've got 3 or 4 5-stars there, and he had a good year down there, but he's leaving Texas. Jalen Dupree was at Malvern, won a state championship, went over to Benton. But Dupree went to Colorado State, redshirt as a freshman, came back as a redshirt freshman, led the team in rushing. And he's 6'2", 210 from Arkansas. I saw him at a combine in Benton, Arkansas. I went down to a combine. I don't remember who put it on, but it was a high school combine at Benton. And when this kid was going into his senior year, and he was there, and I got to know him, and I told Sam about him, and I don't think they wanted him, and a lot of schools overlooked him, and I understand that, but he's gone up there and he showed he can rush. He led the team in rushing at Colorado State. And but he's there, Baxter's there. There's a kid that's extremely fast from Slippery Rock. He's going to take a visit to Arkansas. Tight end from Oklahoma State's already said he's interested in Arkansas. He's from Stillwater, but he's a big tight end, huge kid, be a good blocker. I think he caught 3 passes here, but he's interested in Arkansas. But there's some interesting names going in there, and I think they need to get a quarterback out of there. It's kind of like Lane did at Ole Miss this year, where he went and got that kid that was supposed to be a backup. It was from a real small school. It ended up being a starting quarterback. He ended up being one of the best quarterbacks in the SEC.
Right. You're talking about Chambliss is who you're talking about there. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this kid was supposed to be a backup, an afterthought in case the quarterback got hurt there, which quarterback did. Right. That kid started against Arkansas. I think that was his first start, if I'm not mistaken. He showed what he can do, and he never came out. But, I think Arkansas needs to get somebody there to compete with KJ. I think KJ will be the quarterback. They don't necessarily need to go get a starter, but they need to get somebody who can play meaningful snaps if KJ gets hurt.
Well, with that being said, looking at our roster, and I kind of pretty sure I know where you're probably going to go with this. What position group needs? I mean, pretty much I know the defense needs help. Like, it needs help. But what's the one group that Arkansas cannot miss on, in your opinion? Defensive
linemen. I mean, those are the hardest to find too. And I mean, getting Quincy Rhodes back is huge. Getting Kevin Otis to stay another year is huge. Another kid stayed, another kid from Texas. But defensive line, they cannot miss. And I'm talking about edges, tackles, the whole 9 yards there. I mean, both. I'll tell you what they're going to do on offense. Offensive tackle is a priority. Kobe Brandon's back. The center, Caden Kittler's back. Marion Harris played at right tackle, started there. They're going to move him to left guard. I don't think this has been put out there. It's a little bit of breaking in. I've been told that they're going to move Marion Harris to left guard, and they're going to go to the portal for 2 tackles, a right and left tackle. So, okay. So you lost Carmona, you lost Corey Robinson, left guard and left tackle, but they're going to move Marion over to left guard. So you're okay at guard with Kobe and him, but you need your left tackle or your right tackle. So tackle on offense is important. Getting Braylon back took a little pressure off at running back, because I was going to tell you 2 running backs, two older running backs. Now they need 1 for sure. Probably 1, maybe 2, but 1 for sure. Need some receivers, but defensive line is a position they can't miss. Depending on what they do, they've got a couple of linebackers I really hope they're able to keep. They've got more than 2, but they got 2 that I really, really hope they keep. Wyatt Simmons and then the other kid from Georgia that I hope they can keep. They played a lot this year. And then the secondary, they they just need to overhaul that whole thing, start over there. I mean, so I guess I would say defensive line, but I think defensive back's just as important, Sean, and Ian. And that's there again, like I said about the edge and the tackles, I'm talking about corners, safeties, nickels, hogs, the whole 9 yards there. I mean, all of it.
Right. Ian, what you got there? You got a question, big guy?
Yeah, I do, Mr. Kirk. It's actually about your background now. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, you mentioned that you studied coaching in college. Do you feel that for an aspiring journalist, do you think that is a good approach, maybe to look at the game analytically from that standpoint? Do you think that could help their career and maybe even have cohesiveness with the coaching staff, which could lead to greater access, that type of thing? So,
well, yeah, I think it allowed me to see things from a different perspective than the normal reporter going out and watching a high school game. I've had coaching theory of football, coaching theory of basketball. I've been with the head coaches at Henderson State, the head coaches in all the sports, and worked with them. Coach Outlaw, that was at Arkadelphia at the time. Arkadelphia High School, and just, yeah, I think it helps. I mean, it'd be nice to have a journalism class or two when you're going right. It'd be nice when you get it hung up, you can't write a basic sentence without screwing it up. But I don't have a journalism class to my name. But yeah, I think one thing, and I'm not going to brag on myself because I've got a million weaknesses, and I will tell you those up front. A lot of them are obvious. But one knack that I've had, and I don't know where this came from, but one knack that I have had, I've been able to identify high school and junior college kids for Division I. I'm going to tell you a kid I found, and I know Houston Nutt today would probably kick himself for not taking. I found Jeremy Shockey, and he was at NEO. Yes. Wow. I went to see a running back at NEO. I don't know if it was NEO's running back or the one they were playing that night, school from Kansas, but they were playing. And there was this kid about 6'4", 6'5", out there catching everything. And it was Jeremy Shockey. I went up to him at the end of the game, and NEO was way ahead. I introduced myself, and he said, I'm Jeremy Shockey. He said, I didn't have any offers out of high school. I'm here. And he could leave at midterm. And I said, would you be interested in Arkansas? I said, oh, yeah. I told Houston them, but they thought he was too small, man. They thought he was too small because he's like 210 then. I said, put him at receiver then because he's like Robert Farrell, Chris Steve Large, Bletnikoff. He's like those guys. He can catch everything. That guy's got radar, fly trap hands. He was catching everything that night. I told Houston, think of your buddy Robert Farrell, Little Rock Central in Arkansas. He's like them. He catches James Shebest. He catches everything thrown. And you know what happened? What happened on that? I'll tell you a story. Nobody signed him on national signing day. That's when there was only one in February. Nobody signed him. Miami, Florida, lost some kids. Miami lost some kids they thought they had. And guess what? They fell back and went to Miami, Oklahoma, and signed Jeremy Shockey. And the rest is history, guy. Wow. And but I saw Darren McFadden in the 8th grade. And I'm not going to tell you. And I go back to Jerry Eckwood at Brinkley, Basil Shabazz at Pine Bluff. I've seen all the great running backs, starting with Eckwood on. And I'll tell you, McFadden, I saw him in the 8th grade. I never will forget. He was standing in the corner at a football camp in Arkansas with his stepmother. And they're standing over there. And I go over and talk to him. I said, Darren? He said, yeah. I said, I'm Otis Kirk. Why do you want to talk to me? I'm just in the 8th grade. I just was in the 8th grade. I said, because you just outran every 12th grader out there in the 40-yard dash. I mean, every 12th grader, every 11th grader, every 10th grader, every 9th grader. You outran them all, buddy. You got the fastest time, and you're going into the 9th grade. And I think I covered 8 of his games when he was a senior in high school. But I knew then he was special. And not just special, man. You talk about a good kid. Heart of gold. I went down, I'd see him every time. He'd go over to his coach. It never failed before the game. He'd ask his coach, can I go say hi to him? He'd come over and give me a hug before every game his senior year. Wow. And I said, guys, this kid, I voted for him for the Heisman twice. I didn't feel like a homer at all. I voted for him twice for the first place for the Heisman. He didn't win it either year. He got second both times, but I voted for him twice, and I'll never apologize for that. But I love Darren McFadden today, man. I love him and his family, his stepmother, his dad. They're great people. Used to say, man, I go down there and talk to them. All they want to talk about is you. In the home business. He's the only one. I said, well, I love that family, man. They're great people. And I love Darren McFadden. And I knew and I'm not taking credit for knowing but I ain't no good now judging how they'll do when they leave college, go to the NFL. I'm not that good. But when they're in high school or junior college, I can almost hit on about a million, on 99% of the kids this kid's going to turn out. Now, sometimes the injuries or something will change it. You can't predict kid's going to blow his knee out the first game. So,
right.
But I got a knack for being able to identify kids, and not all. Of course, kid talented like Darren McFadden, it doesn't take a genius to figure that out. But there are cases like Shockey that I saw. And this before anybody knew who Jeremy Shockey was. He didn't have any offers.
Right.
Tall, lanky, skinny kid.
Probably
average student at best. They had grades, but they were not great.
One quick question for you, Mr. Kirk.
Computers holding him, but you got you a stud player. And I told Houston that. I said, man, that kid can play, Houston. If he's too small to play tight end, put him at receiver until you get some weight on him, because in the weight room, he's got the height to put on the weight.
Right.
He did. Miami did. And we all know how that story turned out.
We do. I got one additional question for you. Did Barry Lonnie Jr. catch that ball? What was that, 1998?
Barry threw it, and Matters, JJ Matters. He swears he caught it. He swears he caught it. I don't know. It looked like to me it might have bounced, but JJ swears that he caught that ball. I know being an Alabama guy, you'll say that, and I'll be honest with you. I will be 100% honest. I thought it bounced, but JJ swore to me, and Barry did too, that he caught it. It looked like to me bounced.
Right.
I did. I thought it bounced, but
right.
Hey. When you beat Alabama, you'll take it any way you can get it, man. Because they ain't very many Arkansas beats Alabama stories. My time, man, they ain't been very many of those. And you take it any way.
It's been a long time for sure. A big long time.
Always
Yeah, Gus Malzahn was the offensive coordinator. Houston Nutt was the head coach. That's the last time they beat Alabama here. Yeah, and I thought Brett had him one time. It was 14-13. They missed the extra point, and Kobe Walker fumbled going into the end zone. Nobody ran. He just fumbled. Just stuff like that. Brown, like Ryan Mallett threw an interception against them that one year. They had their chances, but man, you beat Alabama, you take it. If it's cheating, so be it. But no, I tell you, it's funny you asked that, because I did. I know JJ. I know Barry. Obviously, I know Barry better than I do JJ. But I've talked to JJ about that, and we laugh. But he swears to me he caught that ball. But I'd hate to play him on lie. We need to play him on the Steve Wilkos show. Put him on lie detector and see what it says, because I'm not sure he's telling the truth.
Well, hey, we got just a few minutes here left. I think we're probably about 5 to 6 minutes left here. And so I'm going to ask a couple, at least one. I'm going to ask a couple right here, and just a quick answer. Don't have to go. So this is kind of like under my memorable moments type deal here. And I think I probably know where you're going to go with this, but we'll see. Best recruit ever that you ever covered, that you recruit. It don't have to be Arkansas, but best recruit you ever covered that blew your mind away.
And I've been to the All-America games. I walked off the field with Vince Young. I've seen a bunch of them at that All-America game. But I'm telling you guys, I'm probably a homer, but I can't put anybody above Darren McFadden. I'm a McFadden man. I'd vote for him for president if he ran today.
Well, with that being said, what was the most interesting or quirky recruit that you ever dealt with? Just something, along those lines.
I can tell you a good story on D'Angelo Williams. He committed to Arkansas. I called D'Angelo that evening. He had just committed to Arkansas to Danny Nutt. I called D'Angelo, and he's giving me recruiting commitment quotes. All of a sudden, he gets another phone call, and he didn't hang my phone up. He must have had two phones or something, because I don't know if there was that many cell phones back. But anyway, he must have two phones. But anyway, he lays the receiver down. So he's on the other line. He's on with the Memphis coach. And I can hear him talking. And he says, Coach, I will switch to Memphis. I'm sitting there listening to all that. And after a while, I think he realized what he had done and left the phone up. He hung it up without coming back on the line to me. But I called Houston after that. I said, Houston, D'Angelo Williams is going to Memphis. No. He just committed Danny today. I said, Houston, I promise you got problems and win. You need to call D'Angelo. and he signed with Memphis. He wrote, when he sent in his letter of intent, he sent in no. He faxed it into Arkansas and he put no on it. And he did go to Memphis. I was right. But I heard that. That was the darndest conversation I've ever heard, because the kid is giving me commitment quotes on why he's coming to Arkansas. Memphis calls him, and I couldn't hear what Memphis was saying, but I hear what he's saying. And I knew it was Memphis because he said, Coach, I'll come to Memphis. And I about freaked out when I heard that. I'm thinking, man, this kid's giving me commitment quotes. He's telling the coach, Terry, going there. He's lying to somebody. Yeah, but man. Anyway, that'd probably be the weirdest story, Sean, that I've had. I mean, God, they've been very me like that.
Well, Ian, do you have a final question here you want to ask before we kind of wrap this up a little bit? You got anything, big guy?
What recruit were you the most disappointed in? Maybe you felt that they were going to be the next big thing and they just didn't pan out.
Gary Bashears would be in that list. 4-star quarterback out of Clarksville, Arkansas. They was supposed to be all world. Gary Bashears would go in that.
I can think of a Darius Winston.
Yeah, Darius Winston. Well, he was a 5-star, and Gary was a 4 or 5-star. Gary Bashears was out of Clarksville. Both of them were small school, 4 and 5-star kids. And yeah, both of them were disappointments. You bet. Darius Winston, probably on defense. Gary Bashears on offense would be 2 right off the top of my head. I'm sure if I thought I could come aboard, but those are 2 that jump out at me. Both of them.
Well, I'll tell you what, Mr. Otis. Mr. Kirk, I can't even begin to thank you.
Guys, quit calling me Otis.
Well, I know Ian was doing it, and it was a little bit harder for me because you and I we've had a relationship at Arkansas before, and
man, even the please call me Mr. Kirk.
But and I will tell you this, and I know my time at Arkansas there when we talked, man, you treated me nothing other than awesome, as a person. You treated me right, and this is our inaugural podcast right here for Veteran Sports Voice, and I'm a dual service veteran with the Army, Navy. McCants and I served together in the Navy here, and we first off, I know from my bottom of my heart, I appreciate you being on here, and we can't thank you enough.
Thank you,
thank you
so much.
Yeah. And with that being said, here, guys, if you're listening to us right here, man, go to X and go to @CollegeCrew. Both C's capitalize on that. Hit that subscribe button. That like right there for us, and then slide on over. We got a link right there on our page on X that'll take you straight to YouTube @CollegeSportsCrew. And subscribe. That's where we get our. That's where we're trying to get the money at. Right, we're trying to get paid right there through that one. That puts us out and that lets us be heard. And we keep getting some guests like this right here, like the Godfather. That's what I'm gonna call it. That's the nickname, Godfather of Arkansas, of Arkansas sports right here.
I'm just calling Joe, man, but I appreciate the kind words. Sean's always been a kind of an elite person to me, and when he asked me to be on, believe me, I was the one honored. He asked me to be on his show. I couldn't believe it. And he put a post on Twitter, X about me one night that, man, it really meant a lot to me. You don't know how much that meant. I sent it to people, and he's a great person. And I'm Ian. I mean, it's Otis from now on. If you guys ever need me back on, just holler at me. I'll help you any way I can. I hope you don't lose your subscribers because of me tonight, but I hope hey, if I can ever help you guys, or if you ever want me back on again, just ask, man. That's all you got to do.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And I tell you what, when the recruiting cycle is over with here, we definitely love to have you back on here. And you know what? And you got way more followers than people we do. And just you putting out our platform is thanks enough, and we appreciate that. And with that being said, guys. You know what? We appreciate you, and this is a great first show here. And this is Veteran Sports Voice podcast. It's run by veterans, and we are always going to be a voice for our veterans. And we appreciate you guys, and we thank y'all, and y'all have a good night.
Y'all too.
Thank you guys. Ian, good seeing you, man.
You too. So nice to meet you.
Go Willie.